Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, the US President orders up to 300 members of US Special Operations Forces to Iraq while ruling out immediate airstrikes against extremists. State media says that a car bomb has killed at least 34 people in a Syrian government-controlled village in central Hama province. The UN says that the number of people living as refugees worldwide exceeded 50 million in 2013 for the first time since World War II. And Ukraine's acting defense minister says forces have restored control with the border with Russia and destroyed a military vehicle that came from Chechnya. US President Barack Obama ordered up to 300 members of US Special Operations Forces to Iraq while ruling out immediate airstrikes against extremists and stepping up the pressure on Baghdad to form a government that bridges the country's ethnic and religious divisions. Obama announced his plans at a news conference after he met with his national security team. He spent much of his public appearance focused on Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. Obama also made clear that he isn't opposed to Iraqis replacing al-Maliki, whose government has struggled to counter advances by militant fighters with the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. US officials said it would take at least 45 days for Iraq's political parties to agree on a prime minister, whether it's al-Maliki or someone else. As violent escalation continues in Iraq, militants who have overran a swath of territory north of Baghdad in a lightning offensive have taken control of Beji, one of the main oil refineries in the country. More in the following report.
Militants and pro-government forces were engaged in fierce battles for the Beji oil refinery, Iraq's biggest refinery and Tel Afar airport. While in north of Baghdad, the Iraqi forces are massing the area, aiming to strike back the militants whose drive toward the capital. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is expected to travel to Iraq soon to press for a more representative cabinet, hoping this could ease sectarian tensions. Kerry's comments came after a meeting with New Zealand Prime Minister John Key, who declared support for the U.S. plans at the State Department in Washington.
At the President's request, I will take the next step in that diplomatic effort, traveling to Europe and the Middle East next week to consult with our partners face to face. Make no mistake, ISIL is a threat to Iraq and the entire region, and the United States is responding to that threat. But our efforts will only be successful if Iraqi leaders rise above their differences and come around and embrace a political plan.
Over to France, Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said that military intervention is very risky in Iraq and was only possible if supported by a united Iraqi government. Fabius added that interventions when they are one against the other and there is no national unity. In other developments, about 500,000 people have fled their homes in the country's second-largest city, Mosul, which militants captured last week. In Dululiya, between Samarra and Baghdad, residents said a helicopter strayed and rocketed a number of houses in the early morning, killing a woman after the pilot had been given the wrong coordinates.
A car bomb has killed at least 34 people in a Syrian government-controlled village in central Hama province. State media added that more than 50 people were reportedly hurt in the attack today in Hura village. The state news agency Sana blamed the bombing on rebels who have been fighting to overthrow President Bashar al-Assad. The UK-based activist group, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, says the death toll in the Hura bombing is likely to rise, as many of the injured are in critical condition. A suicide bomber detonated his car near a police checkpoint in eastern Lebanon today, killing 2 people. A senior Lebanese security official confirmed the blast in the town of Dar el-Baydar at the entrance to eastern Lebanon's Bekaa Valley and added that it was not immediately clear how many people were killed or wounded in the explosion. No one immediately claimed responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, security forces raided at least one hotel in Beirut's Hamra district, suspecting terrorist cells inside it, but the details or the result of the search were not revealed. Israeli troops killed a Palestinian youth before dawn today and injured several adults as their sweeping West Bank arrest campaign following last week's disappearance of 3 Israeli teenagers both slowed and encountered more resistance. Witnesses in Dura, a West Bank town of 28,000 near Hebron, said a 15-year-old Muhammad Jihaduddin was fatally shot around 5 a.m. as he and other youths hurled rocks at some 150 soldiers storming their neighborhood. Meanwhile, the Israeli military said about 25 Palestinians were rounded up overnight, less than the typical daily number earlier this week. The arrests bring the total detained since Saturday to 330, 240 of them leaders of the Hamas movement. The UN said that the number of people living as refugees from war or persecution exceeded 50 million in 2013 for the first time since World War II, that the overall figure of 51.2 million is 6 million higher than the year before. Antonio Guterres, head of the UNHCR, said that the rise was a dramatic challenge for aid organizations, adding that conflicts in Syria, Central Africa and South Sudan fueled the sharp increase. The UN Refugee Agency admits that some camps have become virtually permanent with their own schools, hospitals and businesses, but they are not and can never be home. Acting Defence Minister said that Ukrainian forces have restored control of the border with and have captured an MB-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher that came from Chechnya. Koval said that 10 Grad military vehicles recently crossed the frontier to support pro-Russian separatists. He said that fighters and supplies of guns and other military equipment have been coming into the country to support pro-Russian separatists, and tightening control of the border is Ukraine's main security headache. Relations with Russia have deteriorated sharply since the ousting of Viktor Yanukovych in February, Russia's subsequent annexation of Crimea, and the outbreak of separatism in the east, which Kiev says was instigated by Moscow. British Prime Minister David Cameron said that the United Kingdom is taking all the necessary measures to prevent British people being radicalised in Syria and Iraq. He added that there have already been 65 Syria-related arrests in the United Kingdom. 14 people have had their passports taken away, and the work of the security, intelligence and policing services is now very much being focused onto this area. His statement came after Lahore Talabani, the Kurdish military intelligence chief, warned that up to 450 British nationals joined the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant in Iraq and could be used to launch attacks on British soil. Talking about the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, Cameron said that Russia could face further sanctions if there was no de-escalation in eastern Ukraine. 10 people have died and several others are missing after heavy rain and flooding hit Bulgaria. Regional National Chief Nikolai Kalchev said that 10 people were swept away by floodwaters late yesterday in the city of Varna. He couldn't say how many more people were missing after torrential rain flooded large parts of the coastal city. Streets in Varna were flooded in metre-high muddy water, with dozens of cars piled up on top of each other, and rescue teams were trying to make their way to people in distress. Large parts of the country have been hit by heavy rain and hailstorms, and hundreds of people have been left without electricity and food supplies. Under the patronage of the Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs, Sheikh Salman Sabah al-Salim Lahmoud al-Sabah, the 17th International Music Festival kicked off. The National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters organises the annual event, and each year an esteemed Kuwaiti musician is chosen to be honoured. Since 1998, the festival has been held in June to coincide with the global celebration of International Music Day, and it aims to highlight Kuwait's musical heritage and instill in it its memory in the new generation, as well as to present other Arab and foreign musical creations and prodigies. Sarah Glubb has more in this report.
The National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters, the NCCAL, inaugurated the 17th Annual International Music Festival with an elegant opening ceremony that was dedicated to the harmonious masterpieces of renowned Kuwaiti artist and composer, the late Abdulrahman al-Bejan. Led by Maestro Dr. Ahmed Hamdan, a number of distinguished artists were invited to revive the great musical compositions of al-Bejan that elevated the fame and popularity of Kuwaiti songs in the Arab world.
This evening I will conduct the National Orchestra of Kuwait. We will present some music of the composer Kuwaiti Abdurrahman al-Baijan. He makes many music and many songs in the Arabic and otherwise in the Arabic world. Then we will present also film for him, what he's doing in his life.
Abdurrahman al-Baijan embarked on his musical and lyrical career in 1960, and after gaining recognition in the local musical scene, prominent stars from all over the Arab world began performing his songs. Al-Baijan passed away in 2000 at the age of 60 after struggling with an illness, nonetheless leaving a strong foothold in the local musical scene.
This evening we will present 10 songs and one music. I compose one music for the overture, and 10 songs. We have 4 singers, one from Egypt and one from Tunis and 2 from Kuwait. And in the final we will present a national song from Abdurrahman al-Baijan.
The festival, which spans over 4 days, includes musical evenings by Arab, local and international performers, emphasizing the importance of cultural exchanges in bringing people closer to each other. The schedule includes a performance by the Tajik National Troupe for Folklore Dance, which also features a Tajik traditional products and photographs exhibition on the sidelines. Other performers include artist Ney Barghouti from Palestine, the Tuyur Dijla Ensemble from Iraq led by Maestro Ala Najid, and will conclude with a concert performed by Kuwait's High Institute for Musical Arts. The concept of International Music Day was created by American musician Joel Cohen in 1976 while working in French National Radio. The occasion was later marked with the blessing of French Minister of Culture Jacques Lang after the presidential elections in 1981. The idea spread to Europe in 1982 and later went international in 1985, and now more than 100 countries mark the day in celebration of music. The National Council for Culture, Arts and Letters has just launched its prestigious and annual International Music Festival. And now in its 17th edition, the Council has chosen to honor the late Kuwaiti composer Abdurrahman al-Baijan and will also feature musical performances from Tajikistan, Palestine, Iraq and other countries. From Kuwait National Museum, this is Sarah Glubb reporting for English News.
The Kuwait Chamber Philharmonic held a Festival Treasure of Talents gala concert at the Radisson Blu Hotel. The programme witnessed young musical talents play music by Beethoven, Chopin, Schubert, Prokofiev and Lieberman, to name just a few. Students who played at the festival are graduates and current students at the Kuwait Music Academy. Our reporter Ghinwa Jabouri has more in the following report.
Academy is a continuation of a 20 years old tradition of international music education in Kuwait by Treasure of Talents. Every year students have the opportunity to show their achievements on the gala concerts, international exams, annual festivals, that is Treasure of Talents, and regular Chopin music competitions organized with Kuwait Chamber Philharmonia.
Today, my children, my daughter and my son will play for the concert. It's my honor to be here. That my children will play for all my friends and the music lovers.
The Treasure of Talents is a once in a year festival that we do once in a year in the summer. So what we do is we display the talents of our students from the morning to the evening, and in the late evening, like now, we have a gala concert where we display a professional performance music. So what you hear now is our performers.
Having a musical ability and talent is by no doubt a talent worth having for many reasons. Music is soothing. Music provides a serene ambience for people. Music expresses emotions which words often fail to do. Music signifies beauty and has deep connotations beyond imagination. Furthermore, music can tell 1,000 beautiful, intriguing stories.
The thing about piano is that it can replace the whole orchestra. It can still have that timbre, I guess, and still replace a full orchestra. And you play it by yourself, and you can play it however you want. That's what makes it so appealing about piano.
I started playing the violin when I was 5, and actually my sister is the one who inspired me to play violin, because she played when I was small. She played music really, really beautiful. So I just started to love violin. It's a Chinese piece, and it just means a girl. She wanted a husband, but she didn't have one. And then at last, when I was on the fast part, she cried, and her heart was beating very fast. So then she died.
The young musical talents who played here tonight were unmistakably talented and even geniuses, as many agree. Further, their ability to tell a story through music was phenomenal, as is their musical abilities. The audiences tonight had the delightful opportunity to listen to some of the best young emerging talents who take music very seriously, as they understand and appreciate the storytelling behind music and the power of music. From the Radisson Blu, I'm Genu Jaburi reporting to you for the English News.
In the World Cup 2014, under the most entertaining matches of the World Cup so far, Colombia scored twice in 6 minutes in a lively second half to beat the Ivory Coast 2-1. Meanwhile, England is on the brink of elimination from the championship after it lost to Uruguay 2-1, while Greece and Japan drew 0-0 in yesterday's matches. Tonight, Italy will face Costa Rica in Group D, France with Switzerland, and Honduras with Ecuador in Group E. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. The US President orders up to 300 members of US Special Operations Forces to Iraq while ruling out immediate airstrikes against extremists. State media says that a car bomb has killed at least 34 people in a Syrian government-controlled village in central Hama province. The UN says that the number of people living as refugees worldwide exceeded 50 million in 2013 for the first time since World War II. And Ukraine's acting defense minister says forces have restored control of the border with Russia and destroyed a military vehicle that came from Chechnya. Thank you for joining us.